Welcome back to the Digital Dish. Hey, Lois, how is the weather in London?
Oh, it is, let's see, rainy. Although
Same here.
We had a great Easter. This is just soon, right after the holidays. So we did have some good weather, so I could enjoy that. But yes.
That's great. Well, we're thrilled again, as usual, to be back with our audience for Women in Digital and for the Digital Dish. So what we have coming up is Stacey Cadigan, who's one of the partners with ISG, and she's interviewing two of the global titans that won the award at the, what was it, the Digital Awards for the women's, what is it again?
The Women in Digital Awards of 2023. And if someone's thinking, well, what's a global titan? Mm-hmm. We have 4 categories for our award winners. And what we do is we look at who were the winners of those 4 categories by region. And then the judges pick one of those 4 because they felt like across the whole landscape of, what we're looking for in our winners, they really had, everything. They had the full package. And we wanted to really recognize those. So yes, we have our digital titans for 2 of our regions.
Wow. That's exciting. Yeah. And we also, I think the Digital Awards for the same award system is open already, isn't it?
It is. In fact, it just opened up a couple of weeks ago for 2024.
Right.
So if you're interested in nominating one of your colleagues or someone that you happen to work with, even in a different company, please go to the ISG website, and there is a place where you can put in your nomination for the Women in Digital Awards.
That's what it is. The Women in Digital Awards. I know. I have like so many digital women in digital floating in my head. So there you go. So we have, as I said, Stacey Cadigan, one of our partners. She is interviewing Dr. Annabelle Pratt and Patricia Sobera. And so I think we should go to that interview. What do you think?
I think we should. See you on
Okay. See you on the other side.
All right. Well, thank you, Jeannie and Lois. I'm really excited to speak with our 2 global titans here today who are delivering just outstanding contributions to the digital world. So welcome to you both, Annabelle and Patricia. So Annabelle, let me start with you. So could you just start us out by sharing with the audience kind of your roles in the past, kind of how that's led you up to your current role today?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. So I have a degree in electrical engineering, and I went through to graduate school and completed my PhD with a focus on power electronics. So I spent about 5 years at a power electronics company designing power supplies, and then transitioned to Intel Corporation. And after about 5 years there, I transitioned to more of their research arm, Intel Labs. And I was with them for another 5 years. And 10 years ago, I moved to a Department of Energy research laboratory, the National Renewable Energy Laboratory in Golden, Colorado. And I am a chief engineer. I lead work that is related to integrating more renewables into the power system.
Wow, that's fantastic. Great. Well, thank you for that intro. And then Patricia, let me ask the same of you. Tell us just kind of what's brought you here to where you are today.
Thank you, Stacey. First, a pleasure to be here, by the way. Well, listen, great question to open the interview, I think. Well, and I suspect, like many others, I haven't actually sat down and planned my career. So I'll go a little bit back to perhaps my childhood. So I actually have grown up in Poland in the 80s, behind the Iron Curtain, so to speak. And of course, that had huge challenges and huge limitations in terms of career choices and opportunities overall. And actually, I was only able to learn Western languages like English and French from the age of 15, because, of course, before it was just Polish and Russian. So I actually really quickly realized that I needed languages to be in a chance of getting out of communist Poland. So I took the path of studying modern languages, and then for a very short period of time, probably just under a year, became a French teacher. And then after that, I actually had an opportunity to join Compaq at the time, Compaq Computer Manufacturing, as part of their graduate scheme, and literally fell into tech. And the rest is history, as they say. Today, I'm a VP of delivery at Unisys, looking after 9,000 of our amazing associates within our support and tech teams. And actually, I think that story of falling into tech, not only falling into tech, but falling in love with tech, with the pace of change, with that futuristic excitement of technology, really being that sort of spine of everything that we do within business.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I love that the two of you have such different and diverse backgrounds to add to the conversation today. So, so looking forward to this. So both of you, have been recognized just for your outstanding leadership, and that doesn't come without some risks along the way. So maybe just share with the audience kind of what risks have you taken in your career, and how has that paid off? Annabelle, I'll start with you.
Yeah. Thinking back, I think the biggest risk for me was when I was with Intel Corporation in a pretty solid position. And this was 15 years ago when smart grids started to be a thing. And they formed this new energy systems research center within Intel Labs. And I took the opportunity to join something, less stable, less established, but it aligned with my interest. I just couldn't pass up the opportunity to work on applications to the power system, which I think is a lifeline for all we do.
Oh, that's terrific. Yeah, certainly doesn't, I'm sure, come with some, without some trepidation there to launch into something new. So that's terrific, and great to see how some of that's, played out here. Patricia, any risks that you've taken in your career, and anything that you would share?
Absolutely, I can think of a few. I think, the story I was just telling you earlier, and I think the actual risk of re-pivoting from teaching to IT, and then ultimately from being a services agent to being a supervisor to then becoming a people manager and taking this massive leadership leap of taking on a service line and then a full region and then a global responsibility, and of course leading to leading 9,000 people today globally. I think it does require some guts and some grit and certainly conviction that you can do it. Was it scary and challenging? Of course. Was it rewarding? Absolutely. And I think one thing I don't want to forget, and I think Annabelle touched on it already, it's also about really having the passion for what you do and having fun in the process. And I think that's the risk versus reward thing. I always say that, we tend to spend more time at work than we do with our loved ones, right? With our families. So we definitely have to have fun, and ultimately, as Annabelle said, have the passion and love what we do. And that, I think, offsets that risk as well.
Yeah, I love that comment around the passion, and it really sounds like for you to be able to make such a leap, from teaching into the career, that you had, it sounds like that was a huge part of it. So, as we think about, particularly as we're looking at some of those career changes and taking some of these risks, I think, one of the powerful ways to kind of help shape a career can really be through a mentor or through a sponsor. So we'd love to hear, Patricia, maybe I'll start with you this time, but, is there anyone that really helped you along the way?
Great question. Thank you, Stacey. Well, I have been super lucky to be surrounded by, I would say, a lot of amazing people rooting for me and supporting me in my growth throughout my career. In each of the role and organization I worked at, I tried to surround myself with, I think, multiple points of support. Let's go that way. And not always just senior leaders, but also peer mentors whom I can use, or I was able to use as a soundboard. But let me just say one thing. I think, these people didn't come to me and say, hey, what can I do for you? Nothing gets sort of handed to you on that proverbial silver plate. I had to actively reach out to these people. I had to actively set up positions. And I think the key thing around mentorship and support is really getting out of your way, getting out of the comfort zone, to really find those, points of support and points of, a mentorship and I guess sponsorship. And in many cases, I went out of my way to be in the same place, in the same time, to really build those relationships and strengthen those relationships. And overall, I would recommend to anyone and any aspiring leader to really surround themselves with a solid group of people you respect and look up to professionally, but also personally. I think that helps if we have that connection as well.
Yeah, that's great. And great, feedback too, in terms of it may not always be someone in a higher position, but peer mentors can be really powerful as well. Annabelle, same question to you. Anyone that really helped you along your path?
Yeah, and similar to Patricia, I've had such a positive experience in the industry over the years. So there are many people, but two that I'd highlight is when I was at Intel, there was a senior engineer, about 10 years my senior, and she just kind of took me under her wings. And the important thing at that time was I was in such a large organization, and it was someone who could help me navigate the organization and who to talk to and where to look for opportunities. So that was incredibly helpful just through, conversation on walks around the campus when the weather was good. And in my current role, I'm in a research position. So that requires writing proposals and getting funding for your ideas. And I have a couple of people now who are program managers. So they are more outward facing, and they have over the years, just exposed me to opportunities, introduced me to people. So having someone that believes in your capabilities and that you could be a key contributor to a research project, and then being willing to share their contacts and opportunities with you. So they're, I think, helping in different ways, but in ways that I needed in and still need in these specific organizations.
Yeah, that's great. And I guess maybe as you think about maybe how you're able to pass that on to other women as well, I mean, anything that you would share, where maybe you've been able to actively communicate with women in the workplace, or help them maybe find opportunities, or help them feel included in conversations, or help make connections, anything like that, that kind of helps pass it on as well to others.
Yes, it's wonderful to be on the flip side of that, where now I've built up that network, and now I can introduce more junior engineers, people who've shown their capabilities on projects that I've worked with them, to say, I think you could be a really good leader on this opportunity. Let me introduce you, make a connection, and watch them take that further is very exciting.
Yeah, that's great. Patricia, from your perspective, anything kind of come to mind as you think about, what you've been able to do in your career to kind of lift up other women as well?
Oh, absolutely. And probably one of the things I feel most passionate about outside of the sort of day job, so to speak, right? But I actually have a pleasure of leading our Women in Tech cohort for the EMEA region. And for me, leading the EMEA Women in Tech is one, Stacey, as you said, an amazing opportunity to give back, right? It's super rewarding, and pass those valuable learnings and lessons to others, which is, as I said, tremendously rewarding. But secondly, and probably most importantly, is to provide these women and participants of these sessions we run with the EMEA cohort with, I'd call them, tangible tips and techniques, more kind of tools, so they can actually add them to their professional toolbox, so to speak, and use them for career growth or career development. We run a kind of lean-in style of sessions within the EMEA region. And actually, one of my favorite sessions is the art of purposely dropping the ball. I love this one because this is where we actually meet together and we encourage all the participants to use super clever prioritization techniques to review and then eliminate tasks which they can do very well, the stuff they can be amazing at. But if these activities can be performed by someone else, they of course provide an amazing opportunity for delegation. And sometimes dropping a ball means that someone else is obviously forced to pick this up, right, and learn. And this is where we teach women to really find those precious minutes, those precious hours, if possible, to open that new window to learn new skills, become more strategic, build on that skill set. So whether it's the art of dropping the ball, whether it's the sessions on communicating with confidence, whether it's sessions on the power of personal branding, those events are really based on learnings and sort of tangible outputs, which really have the purpose of, one, getting women together network, share the challenges, support each other, get them to feel included, as we say. But also, it's really that addition of new tools to their professional career growth toolset, let's call it. And I think, for me personally, there's nothing more rewarding than getting a message saying, hey, thanks for your help and thanks for helping me to focus on this. I actually applied for this internal promotion and I think I can do it. It's really fantastic to see that. And, from, again, personal standpoint, I'm a mum of two girls, 5 and 16. And I feel I really have this, not just responsibility, but ultimately accountability to lead the way when it comes to inclusion, when it comes to, doing little things, even through these sessions, to really be in a way of actually changing the narrative going forward.
Yeah, that's terrific. I love, that tangible, example and how that can translate, broader to support it. Patricia, you also kind of talked about the theme about sort of recognizing and taking advantages of opportunities when they do come. So I guess anything that either of you would share just in terms of how you have been able to grab opportunities in your own career.
Well, for me, the most memorable was when I learned about a research project. Now it's probably 7, 8 years ago. That sounded really interesting to me. I was not involved in it at all, but I just felt drawn to it. So I reached out to the principal investigator via email and asked if I could meet, and spoke to this person and just expressed my interest. So for me, this was quite forward, almost, to just say, I am very interested in this, and if there's any opportunity for me to participate. So he added me to the team, and it has really set the direction for me. I have continued to build on that kind of base research project over the years. So yes, it was just memorable and had very positive outcomes to just ask the question.
That's great.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah, no, I was just thinking about asking a question. Such a powerful technique, isn't it? I think Stacey, you touched on it. For me, it's probably about saying yes, quite simply saying yes. Saying yes to opportunities when they present themselves, but also if they don't present themselves, I think it's going out there and actually finding them or creating those opportunities. It wasn't always plain sailing for me professionally and personally. I arrived in the UK, gosh, 25 years ago now, and I faced barriers and challenges, and I see those today, from inclusion standpoint as well. For me, whether it was a question of, hey, why are you here and why are you stealing British jobs, or what makes you think you are technically competent to have a seat at the table, it's difficult sometimes, and I think these opportunities may not necessarily sort of present themselves. So that's why I'm really passionate about going out there and really creating those. And I think this is where my passion for that inclusive leadership comes, and really encouraging others to, like I said, get out of their comfort zone. I love that saying, to feel comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? Grabbing these opportunities, challenging the status quo, so to say, because again, I think that's the only way we can change the narrative going forward.
Yeah, no, that's great. So, you talked about some barriers or maybe, some perceptions of women in technical fields, or perhaps, some instances maybe not feeling heard in the organization. So it would be great to, touch on that a little bit. Annabelle, maybe from your perspective, any perceptions or challenges that you've experienced, and if so, how have you responded?
Mm-hmm. Yes, and again, I've had overall such a positive experience in this industry, and because I'm more on the power side, power electronics, for much of my career, I was in very male-dominated environments. Quite different now in the research organization. It's pretty balanced, but there are still moments when on a research project, I would suggest a certain direction of, I think we can pursue this. And if that is not followed, just in the back of your mind, you just wonder if gender plays a role. And the way I've chosen is just to be tenacious, to not let it go. Maybe let them play out an alternate route, but to not just drop it. And it's so subtle. I think that's what's sometimes challenging now. The overt sexism I have not observed, really very much. And so sometimes you just question yourself, was that, a response to my technical capabilities or a response to my gender? And I just keep pursuing and pressing on the directions that I think are the best for the project.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. Patricia, anything else that you would add in terms of any additional kind of barriers there or how you've responded?
Certainly, and I think, just to pivot on what Annabelle was saying, very similar experience actually compared to hers as well. I don't think I had huge amount of that, but perhaps I think just to pivot what Annabelle was saying, this is down to how we present ourselves and how perhaps knowing that I was going into a difficult conversation, into a difficult meeting, difficult discussion, I actually tend to prepare extra hard to bring not only my perspective forward, but also to prepare some really good, killer questions to help me steer the discussion where I can contribute. And I think this relates back to Annabelle's whole point around subject matter expertise, right? That SME aspect, which perhaps can be showcased a little bit more if we steer the conversation through preparation. And since being in leadership positions, I think my kind of personal value is to actually always be heard. I absolutely hate going to meetings where I say nothing or don't contribute. I'm kind of thinking, well, why did I even book the time in my calendar? I didn't need to be there. So I think, for me, it's quite simply about sometimes finding that big voice, coming on camera, having that presence and saying, hey, I'm here. I am a subject matter expert, right? And I've got something to say on this topic. And really growing in that direction and becoming, again, perhaps going back to that feeling comfortable with uncomfortable sometimes.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. Personally, I know a lot of women also struggle with, just outside of work, how do I find the right balance to successfully manage my career, my family, personal commitments? So switching gears a bit, would love to hear from you in terms of kind of how you do it and what advice you have for others. So Annabelle, I'll start with you on this one.
I am a great believer in rest. And therefore, I really encourage my colleagues to take their vacation time. I have so many colleagues who there's always something to do, so they don't take their vacation. And so I really think it brings so much value to us to step away from work and to really step away, turn off the work cell phone. So just that disconnect. And it is hard because you feel you're always missing out on something. There's never a great time to take vacation. But just seeing the value in it, and then you're willing to take the loss. So I think of it as a multi-objective optimization problem. Where you give different weights to your work and your personal life, and people's optimizations are different. And so I think we have to, maybe even if you don't think about it that technically, but just continue to evaluate your values and what's really important to you and to give it the focus. But it does mean that sometimes you lose out on work opportunities, and just becoming comfortable with that. So I try to live up to my own advice.
I know, not easy, is it?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, Patricia, what's your advice as well to others that, how do they find the right balance?
I love it. Annabelle. It's like a scientist answering the question, actually. Brilliant advice there. Well, Stacey, thank you. I think the clue is in the question, right? You said the balance, the right balance to successfully manage career and of course, our sort of home life and home commitments. And I think for me, when I think of the balance, it's probably the balance of guilt versus professional fulfillment, which I think often makes us and me work harder. And what I mean by that is when I'm with the kids, I'll just maximize the time with them, and I'll be running from tennis to swimming to cupcake making and decorating with this massive FOMO. At least from my perspective, it's kind of like, well, I'm catching up, right? That lost time. And so often my girls will say, Mom, can we just kind of chill on the sofa and have a cuddle and maybe watch a movie? Because it's just too much sometimes. So my advice is don't feel guilty, and ensure your family is aware of your professional ambitions, and that they're on the journey with you. I think Annabelle touched on it as well, the values, and I think sometimes celebrating every win together, and as an individual, and stop giving yourself perhaps a hard time, and maybe an occasional pat on the back as well, is probably a great way forward and a great advice I can give others.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. I think we could all use that advice. Well, I think just to close out, any maybe final thoughts or recommendations to our viewers, or anything you'd share in terms of good books or podcasts or industry organizations, or anything that you kind of participate or listen to or would recommend for our viewers. Patricia, I'll go to you.
Absolutely, yes. Well, listen, this is amazing. I think ISG are doing such a fantastic work with podcasts, with reaching out to women in this industry. So thank you, by the way, for doing this, and thank you for the opportunity of being here. Another one for me is Stephen Bartlett. I absolutely love The Diary of the CEO. I don't know if you have watched it. It's fantastic. Doesn't it just touch the business, but also sort of personal aspects of life. His book is with me actually all the time. I've got a lot of notes. Happy Sexy Millionaire is absolutely fantastic. So love Stephen Bartlett. And probably I'll give a nod to our Ulysses own Weston Morris. Weston Morris is actually our Director of Solution Management, and he's got an amazing podcast on the latest trends in the industry, and some fantastic tangible advice as well on how to navigate through this era of unprecedented technological change and what's important, what's not. So I'd say, as minimum, these 3 sources.
Okay, that's great. Annabelle, any recommendations for our viewers?
On a slightly different note, I think our kind of industry organizations are very important. So for me, I've been a member of the Institute for Electrical and Electronic Engineers for a long time, and they have a Society for Women Engineers, and have a quarterly publication that's just really inspiring to continue to be able to read and learn about what other women are achieving and how they are contributing to technology solutions for our world.
Great. Well, with that, I'll open it up. Any final thoughts from either Annabelle, Patricia, before we close out?
Well, just one from me is take the opportunity of the fact that the system is open again for Digital Awards 2024. It's been an absolutely fantastic experience, and I love the fact that I'm actually connected to individuals and professionals like Annabelle. It's fantastic to have those relationships in the industry and that amazing opportunity to network. So thank you for this.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much to ISG for hosting us and for sponsoring this award, and for giving us the opportunity to learn from each other.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Well, thank you both for your time and your insights today. Such a pleasure to speak with you both and really just understand around your journeys. And I know a lot of what you shared and discussed will really resonate with our viewers. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Annabelle.
Oh, that was fantastic.
I so enjoyed talking with them both. Yes, fabulous. I
tell you, I get off these interviews and I'm always inspired. You're like, oh, it's rainy, it's crappy, it's weather. But then you go, oh, look at these women. Look at all the great, they're just sharing their experience. And it's great. Yeah.
And their backgrounds were so different. That's what I think is always such an interesting thing. And I'm glad you asked that as the first question, because just to hear where they came from, and you take different directions, right? You don't always go forward. You might say, oh, I'm going to sidestep and try something new. And it's okay to do that. In fact, people should do that, right?
Yeah.
It's so interesting.
Well, yes, I thought, go ahead, Jenny.
Well, I just love that too, because I think I always think there's so many different ways to tech, and if there's any young viewers, I always want them to know that there are so many ways to get into this. It doesn't have to be engineering like Annabelle. It could be through teaching French. I mean, who would have known? But that's amazing. I just love that. I love that
I
aspect of tech.
agree. Yeah, I think the common theme was that they both had passion. They
Yes.
both really felt that they were really drawn to this. And I think that was certainly the core at both of them. But yes, it was great to
Say
see them set
yes.
that contact.
I love that.
Yes.
I think say yes. If it interests you, say yes. By the way, the art of dropping the ball, what a great idea.
Yeah.
I mean, I love that. But because you always learn more from failure than you do from maybe success,
Absolutely.
so
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it was really powerful to hear just about them lifting up other women through that process, and where they've been supported along the way as well. And those tangible tips and techniques, I thought was fabulous.
yeah.
The other word I heard them say other than passion was also conviction, because you also heard not just saying yes, but also if you're not hearing the question for you to say yes, go ask the question yourself.
Absolutely.
And see something, be tenacious about it, and ask to be a part of it. And I think that was a really good lesson. And just, we all should be, and the other term, comfortable with being uncomfortable, like just know that nothing bad's going to happen. It's okay, right? You can go and inquire and try some new things. It may not get that, and that's okay, but it'll take you a step further, and you'll get more comfortable about
Absolutely.
being that sort of, really pushing yourselves forward.
Yeah, I keyed in on that tenaciousness too, and grit, and the conversation around just being prepared to contribute and steer the conversation as well, to having your voice, speaking up, and being, prepared to do that, I think is really important. And I think a lot of women, I think they do prepare really well. And I think that's a powerful piece of it, to come prepared to contribute and speak.
Let's not forget rest and vacation. I'm like,
Yes.
yes, somebody said it. Yes, you need time to recharge your batteries. You need time to think, some downtime. So that was a huge win for me. I'm like, yay! That was great. Yeah.
Needs to be our mantra. Definitely.
It should be.
So much, Stacey, for doing this. This
Yes.
was a great interview, and I appreciate your time. And and I'm so glad they both also mentioned about the awards and the positive experience that they had going through it. So hopefully we could have another great year in 2024.
Yep. We should put the link on this LinkedIn profile. So we should put the link to get to nominate people. So maybe I'll ask our producer. Hello, producer. We'll ask them to put that on the details.
That sounds great.
Good.
All right. Well, you ladies have a great evening. It was great.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Thanks all. All right.
Thank you.
Bye.